Sematary is the 1989 horror movie directed by Mary Lambert, and it stars Dale Midkiff, Fred Gwynne and Miko Hughes. So in preparation for the Pet Sematary readaptation that's coming out in April, I decided to look back on the original Pet Sematary from 1989. The movie is about a family man who loses a loved one at the same time as finding out he's got an ancient burial ground next to his house, and it has the power to raise the dead. As the movie did come out in 1989, there's obviously going to be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't seen the original, which you should have by now, then don't watch this review. Out of all the horror movies that I watched as a kid, this is one of the ones that stuck with me the most, and then when I watched it as a teenager, it stuck with me again for different reasons, and then watching it again as an adult, as a parent, I've watched it in a completely different light, and I still think it's very effective for what it does. I haven't read the Pet Sematary book by Stephen King, but I did hear that the 1989 movie is very inaccurate. I don't know how inaccurate, I don't know what's missing, and I don't know what's been added to the movie, so I can't comment on that. Even when the remake comes out or the readaptation comes out, I still won't know what's been added and what's been taken away. But one thing I did hear is that Zelda was a 10-year-old girl in the book, whereas in the 1989 movie, Zelda was played by a middle-aged man, obviously to look like a woman, but he was obviously a lot older than a 10-year-old girl. I hear that in the readaptation, Zelda will be a 10-year-old girl, but again, I don't know how accurate it's going to be or how more accurate it's going to be from the original. And speaking of Zelda, that is one character that scared me throughout my childhood. For a late 80s horror movie, you normally expect pretty bad acting, if not mediocre acting. In this movie though, I think everyone gives a really good performance. Apart from Dale Midkiff, he gave a good performance, but sometimes he looked a little lazy and a little wooden, especially at times where you would expect him to be more emotional. He did show some emotional scenes in the film, but I think he was a weak link in the film, but everybody else was outstanding. I was a massive fan of Miko Hughes as a kid. Obviously he was around about my age. I loved Kindergarten Cop, I loved A New Nightmare, I loved Mercury Rising. Anything with him in it I wanted to watch because he's such a good actor. And we have to remember, he was only around about 2 years old when they were filming Pet Sematary. He was 3 when it came out, but I think he was about 2 years old when they filmed it, and that was impressive. As 80s horror movies go, it had everything that I wanted. It has that nostalgic element to it. Everything you wanted from an 80s horror movie. Creepy sounds, squeaky floorboards, isolated houses, cemeteries in the back garden, and really good practical effects. As I mentioned, I watched this as an adult and it affected me in a different way as it did as a teenager and as a child. Yes, I watched it as a child. I've got 2 kids. I've got an 8-year-old son and a 4-year-old daughter. So obviously I'm a family man now, and everything changes. Your perspective in life changes. This movie still, even to this day, even watching action movies, dramas, horrors, thrillers, sci-fi, this movie hits me the most as a family man. Just, you know what scene I'm talking about, the scene with Gage when he goes on the highway. Watching that as an adult with kids round about his age and seeing that happen and seeing the dad's face and his expressions is probably what I would do. Now I did mention that Dale Midkiff was pretty wooden in this film, but I think this scene, he gives a really accurate representation of what you would be like if you saw that happening to your child. Obviously I don't want that to ever happen to me, and I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but for that to happen, even watching it in a horror movie, you think this isn't even a horror movie scene, this was just awful. And that scene hit me very hard. Even as a kid it hit me hard, but as an adult, as a parent, it was just awful to watch. 30 years later, I still don't think that Pet Sematary gets the praise that it deserves. It is easily one of the best 80s horror movies that I've seen. It's one of the best Stephen King adaptations that I've seen as well. So I think that the remake's got a tough task on its hands to take over the original, because it was so effective for me as a kid, and it was very effective for me as an adult as well. And of course, as an 80s horror movie, it's got its cheesy elements as well. It doesn't come without cheesy elements, but I think that's what adds to the nostalgia factor for Pet Sematary as well. Overall guys, I would highly recommend Pet Sematary to anyone who's a horror fan, anyone who's a fan of Stephen King adaptations, and especially fans of 80s horror movies. This is one of the best 80s horror movies that I've ever seen. So what do you think of the original Pet Sematary, guys? Remember, it is 30 years old, so be gentle if you haven't seen it before and if you're going to watch it on my recommendation. But let me know your thoughts if you've seen it. Leave your comments down below. Anyway guys, thanks a lot for watching again. Thanks for subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.